more people can say more things to more people than ever in history, and that is still growing enormously.
The contemporary internet and the tools that make it up give us an immense opportunity to reorganize almost any aspect of our own lives.
So if you can create an encyclopedia with 1 million people who never met, but the quality is just as good as Britannica, what else could you create?
There is this possibility of using these tools to do massive things, which is completely unexplored at the moment.
And we can work together in ways that ask a deeper question about the role of government.
There's a whole new model that's emerging where we become part of the government.
I think we've got the technology that any voters in Parliament could be offered to the entire country.
This is a very profound change. I'm not talking about people lobbying outside parties influencing government. I'm talking about unbundling and reconstituting what is a government.
A revolution doesn't happen when society adopts new tools. It happens when society adopts new behaviors. These tools have lowered the cost of doing things to the point where our desire to engage with one another is enough to get things now to happen at a very large social scale rather than just a sort of smaller family and friends scale.
My name is Eric. I'm 19 and I've never been overseas, and I'm going to be staying with couch surfers. Every face I see is completely alien to me, and I'm not really used to that.
This urge that we have to socialize, to connect, to be recognized, to have social status, that plays out in these technologies a lot more easily than it could in the world of broadcast media or newspapers or mass communication in the 20th century sense of the term.
Public services are going to need to change the way in which they see people. They're going to need to find ways of tapping into people's own resources. They're going to need to find ways of connecting people to support one another in the way that sites like NetMums do.
It's a message board, basically. It can be a very lonely journey, parenting. It is all about loss of the community, I think, really. So to try and get that community spirit that would have been there so many years ago, we have to find some other way of doing it, and Mumsnet is probably the best way of doing that, I think.
Mumsnet builds on what mums have always done in playgrounds, in parks, in groups, but just takes that to a whole different level. I think it's a very impressive example of the way that the web can create large communities of informal knowledge and systematise that and make it very useful.
And so the question you have to ask yourself, given how active the users are, is Couchsurfing a small organization because it's got 7 formal employees, or is it a huge organization because it has this enormous number of collaborators? It's the same for Wikipedia, it's the same question for Flickr, it's the same question for YouTube.
I'm going to be meeting my Couchsurfing host, Alan. I've never met him before except online. He'll be hosting me for 2 nights. There's a lot of unknowns.
The old model of social trust and anointed experts is one of only many, many patterns in which society can both exhibit trust and gain value from those relationships. And we're seeing the other patterns reestablish themselves.
At the moment, I'm on my way to go and meet 4 people who I've never met before, apart from online, all Mumsnet posters. I don't really know that much about them, apart from they've all got babies. Get yourself comfy. What's your name again? Hi.
What we're actually beginning to see is people putting their faith in a different kind of professionalism.
The amount of times you read threads about health visitors or some healthcare professional that's given absolutely ridiculous advice.
They undermine your own confidence, and I think that's what Mumsnet gives you back. Elliot's quite...
People trust the mothers they meet on Mumsnet because they've been mums, not because they're health visitors or social workers or whatever. And so I think there is something about who do we trust.
You don't mind me joining you?
No, of course not.
This is Joshua, by the way.
It's not as dangerous as you would think. I'm not too worried about what he's going to be like.
There is clearly an issue of safety and trust. Of course it can be unsafe at the margins, and of course there are predators and charlatans.
Yep. Hi, Elaine.
Hi.
Yeah, how's it going?
What's really interesting about anything like this, any system that tries to apply rules to human behaviour leaves itself open to being gamed. It's scary, not everybody can cope with it.
Hello.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you as well. All right, so this is your place?
Yes, 94.
But I think if you show trust, then what tends to happen is that you reduce the incentive to game the system substantially. So just by being open and showing trust, you can actually protect yourself.
The flat is quite small, as you could see. Over there is restrooms.
Okay.
And I usually share my time with the kitchen and the couch surfer. Is this your first time in London, in Europe?
Yeah, actually, first time in Europe, first time pretty much out of North America.
What are your first impressions so far?
It's another world.
If you want to use the phone, call someone. I have Skype.
There are ways in which we can trust one another. Critically, the couchsurfing site doesn't just work by turning up addresses of random strangers in remote countries. It actually has a number of mechanisms in it, as do many of these services, eBay perhaps most famously with the reputation market. It has a number of mechanisms. I trust sharing things with you if you and I may share again in the future, or if we know someone in common. And all of those patterns, which were previously limited by the lack of real group communication tools, have now reappeared.
Help yourself. Enjoy the food. Hope you like it.
Okay, yeah, it smells amazing.
In the beginning, it was kind of interesting because I joined and I wasn't really quite sure what I was going to find out. So I saw that there was a meeting, and I said, well, let me see how the people look like. Because you never know, internet, these sort of things could be a bunch of freaks. But getting there, sitting down, talking to them, I said, well, wonderful, they're open-minded people, they talk about travels. There are so much in common that I said, wonderful, I started joining and coming to the meeting.
It's just like a big group of people that most of them you know are already past some kind of barrier. Right. Wherever you go, you can just immediately make a connection with somebody.
That I like going
There's more than 500,000 members, 1,500 people meeting up per night to sleep on each other's couches.
Can you trust the first thing that comes up when you search on Google for a bit of information about a health condition you have? Can you trust that more than the doctor? The fact that if you have lots and lots of people collaborating and sharing information, actually the good rises to the top, and there's a kind of self-policing that's going on.
I've seen bad advice, and if there is bad advice, you can guarantee that people afterwards are going to say no, ignore such and such a person. They don't know what they're talking about. If you've got one post that says, do this, and then you've got 25 posts afterwards saying, don't listen to them, they haven't got a clue, then you're not going to listen to them.
The more people you have involved, the more people you have kind of tending to the information that's being shared, that is a way of ensuring quality.
It's not like you get advice from one person. You'll get advice from 25, 30 people within minutes. It's like you post a thread. Now, though, I'm the one running along. Like, oh, look, I know that thread. I can post you the links. But yes, you want a vaginal birth? Oh, of course you can have one. Here you go. Have a look at this. This is the reason.
You would trust other mums more than you would trust, the health service or, government policy or, best practice papers about how to bring up children and so on. And so the motivation to kind of network on a peer-to-peer basis and help each other is quite high. And so, it's a very simple economic model in terms of how you invest your time and your attention.
Hello, welcome to Directionless Inquiries.
I'm trying to find the nearest cash machine. I'm outside Shoreditch Church on Shoreditch High Street.
Okay. The basic idea is that if you're out on the street and you've got a mobile phone, you phone this number and you're connected to somebody that happens to be able to answer a question that you need to know.
The London number is directed really at people who've registered for the system and have expressed the fact that they know something about London or about a particular part of London. So you can phone that number and you'll be connected to people with that local knowledge.
It's basically like a virtual telephone exchange.
Yeah.
Here we go. And basically I phone up a number and they'll tell us anything we want to know.
I don't really mind talking to somebody in a call centre in Bangalore, but it isn't always the best place to get information about what's happening next door to you or down your street. And especially if you're stuck somewhere and you need to get to a pub that you don't know the name of, or you've lost the details of where this or that is.
It's quite nice just to be able to help someone on the way by giving them directions, for example, or by just imparting a bit of your wisdom that you've gained over the many years of being on this planet.
Yeah.
There is something in the fact that that kind of gift economy has always been there. It's just that it's remained invisible, and partly what kind of social media is beginning to do is bring that gift economy out into the open to make it more tangible.
The cost to you of sharing one piece of information is a lot less than the benefit that you get back from, everybody else's information. So, it's like the old adage, you got one thing to teach and you got lots and lots of things to learn. And I think that model is present in many of these sites and these phenomena.
If a system can actually give people responsibility and actually allow them to act in a positive way, then they would do that. They would do that with gusto.
They're connecting on the basis of highly relevant similarities. It's not generic do-gooding. This is highly specific and highly individualised, and therefore far more powerful. Whether it's travelling on a budget, or whether it's being a mother, or whether it's being someone who feels they need a bit of help from a friendly stranger who's been in the same situation. Everything can be fulfilled by allowing people to help each other.
So far through Elaine, I've met quite a few people, and within just a few days I've already hung out and met tons of people in a city that seems otherwise unfriendly.
Nice. Finding money with Richard.
Okay. Yeah. Exactly. And
it's just the beginning of this fantastic phenomenon. It's really a very powerful force for good, the potential for people to connect in this way.
It's just about creating the circumstances that allows people to do that. And I think that, there's so much stuff out there which kind of treats people as if they're going to mess things up, or they're incompetent. And I think that our approach to people is that generally they are competent, and that they might mess things up occasionally, but if you offer them an opportunity to help, they will gladly take it, and they will get a warm feeling, as I always get a warm feeling from doing the stuff that I do.
What's happened in the 20th century, I think, was really the anomaly. We're actually seeing a reversion to a very common and deep human pattern of doing things because we like each other, doing things because we care for each other, doing things to get recognition and to get sort of reputational capital.
There are collaborative ways of working and doing things which deliver the public service outcome far better than the old model.
People will increasingly expect to be able to make choices, to be able to express themselves, to stand up and be counted in more than just a number and a vote or a tick. So how will governments relate to people who are more empowered?
If you look at how